This is Blake Temez with the Blake Temez podcast, where I speak as a Catholic layman to Catholic laymen about missional living, wisdom cultivation, and legacy building in service of Christ and his bride, the Church. Thanks for being here. Dune Part 2, the film, is out, and as someone who's read the first 4 books of the Dune series, it stirred up a lot of memories of the narrative and the characters that I encountered when reading the books for the first time. I haven't finished the whole series. I know very few people who have made it through even the first 3, but in any case, maybe someday. But Dune, the series as a whole, especially the first 2 books, provides an interesting opportunity to reflect on our cultural moment and its relationship with the hero's journey that was popularized by Campbell as a kind of product of reflecting on Jungian archetypes. And Frank Herbert seems to do something very interesting with his first book, Dune, and it's depicted, I think, faithfully with changes, but I think the themes are faithful to the book in the films. It seems at the onset of the Dune series that Herbert draws together a lot of elements that are familiar to the hero's story. What's interesting is what happens after the initial introduction of Paul Atreides and the other characters. This won't be a spoiler, so I won't get into any particular plot details, but suffice to say that what begins as a classic tale of a underdog or a group that's outnumbered and a young man who has a serious fight on his hands, but that we want to see win, becomes more complicated as we see the various actors and their motivations contributing to the backstory and the developing action of the book, such that the hero's journey becomes interrupted and a bit more convoluted in the case of Paul Atreides, such that we can look at him in his character development and have a more ambiguous evaluation of what he's accomplished and who he has become. And I find that to be a helpful reflection because of the way that it complicates what we often hope to see in neater narratives. I do want to uphold the significance of the more classic character arcs. They represent a really helpful pattern in our stories and our mythologies, but the Dune series invites a more nuanced vision of how human actors interact with their free will, with movements as large as international politics and religion, and shows how those forces can be manipulated and how even good intentions can lead to great destruction. And so that's about as much as I can say while remaining general about the plot. Perhaps in the future I'll be able to have a conversation that is spoiler filled to be able to talk about the specifics. But I do recommend the Dune series, particularly the first 2 books, which I believe the film the film series will include the second book and perhaps end there. But it's a really well done combination of themes of religion and politics, and how we understand destiny and all of that type of thing. And this relates, at least tangentially, to the overall topic of our conversation on this podcast about men's spirituality, men's development, and ministry with them. Because the hero's journey, including the journey that Paul takes, has aspects of it of aspirational masculinity, of aspirational manhood, of a young man growing into something more than he is, and carries cautionary tales about what it means to embrace fate, to play into people's hands, and to gain power, and how that can be a blessing and a curse in various ways. So it can provide helpful talking points in reflecting on these characters together as a group or in a mentorship relationship. And I hope that you get a chance to see the film, that you enjoy it. And that's all for today. God bless you and all your efforts. Peace. If you're a young Catholic man or a mentor, missionary, or minister who works with them, or even just a concerned figure in their life, a parent, uncle, whoever it might be on the lookout for the release of a short guide that I'm putting together called Brothers by Blood: How to Forge a New Path for Catholic Manhood. In it, I'll expand on some of the topics in this podcast and give you some points of reflection to see about how you can be a part of a movement that empowers men and brings them to their full potential for their sake and also for the benefit of the church and, by extension, the benefit of all society. So, again, thank you for being a part of this, and look out for more information about the release of my guide in episodes to come.